In the final episode of Space Dandy, all the cosmic strings are finally wrapped up in this series finale, which features tons of sci-fi action, massive mobile suit battles, and a universe-ending punch that will leave you wanting more. The final episode of Space Dandy is bittersweet to say the least, because I love this show. It is hands down no comparison my favorite anime of 2014. For its creativity, its enduring characters, its mix of action and comedy, and the fact that the series had zero continuity. That is, until the final episode of the series. Would you believe that at the very end of this week's episode of Space Dandy, they are literally able to bring in the fact that every episode has had a connection. Everything has happened. Dandy is the only one in the universe who has the ability to travel through the dimensions and simultaneously exist in all of them at the same exact time. In a sense, Dandy has godlike abilities, and even by the end of the episode, he is even offered the role of God by the narrator himself. But that's not the Dandy way! God can't go to boobies and catch aliens, and Dandy says, screw that shit, I'll come back in 14.8 billion years and get my shit back and go on a brand new adventure. This was such a genius episode. It featured all of the great production value that you saw from the previous episodes. There were a ton of cameos from almost every major character from the series. There were even some villain plot twists. You remember Dr. B? Guess what? He's technically the ultimate final villain of the series and has apparently been a spy for the Jicro Empire for the entire series, but then decides to screw them over at the very end, only to be crushed by a massive gorilla Dr. Gel at the very end. Didn't see that one coming at all. And speaking of the Jicro Empire, guess what? Johnny comes back! Yes! Dandy's bandmate has returned and he's bringing his entire forces with him. And you gotta love that scene when he walked in on Commander Perry and he said, "Here's Johnny!" It's Johnny, who is voiced by Johnny, saying a line from The Shine about Johnny Carson. Mind blown! But the coolest thing about this episode is the fact that it breaks the continuity. It brought everything together, and they literally pick up from last week where Dandy is leaving the courthouse and he is captured by the Gogol Empire, and Cutie, Meow, Scarlet, and Honey are going to have to go after him. The problem is, the Gogol Empire and the Jicro Empire are in the middle of a war, and you just know this is going to result in one of the most crazy action scenes of the entire series. You're going to see mobile suit battles. You're going to see the Aloha Oi coming in, shooting off that massive Dandy robot, which will literally ride the Aloha Oi like a massive surfboard on magma through space. That happens this week, guys, and that's just the first half of the episode. When they finally get to Dandy, who is captured, who happens to be taking his capturing in all stride, by the way, it's up to him to sort of save the universe from this massive super weapon that the Gogol Empire has created, which actually creates these massive ethereal space dragons, a red one and a blue one, and it's up to Dandy to do that. But Dr. Gel is done, Dr. B is gone, Commander Perry has been defeated, the Aloha Oi has been destroyed. How is Dandy going to save the universe? He's gonna do it with American pride! He is actually going to pilot the big, massive Statue of Liberty mech, which has been teased throughout the whole show. You know that ship that Dr. Gel's been flying around in, the Statue of Liberty head with a ball gag in its mouth? Well, it's actually a piece of an even bigger robot. And at the very end of the episode, Dandy launches in this massive ship, which flies up into this super weapon, and it ditches its robes, it has a massive lightsaber weapon, and it fights against the dragons, and then it ejects Dandy, whose clothes immediately rip from his body, and then he does this incredible punch, where he flies into the super weapon, punches it once, and the entire universe completely resets and crumbles. It's at this point of the series that we start to learn that, of course, Dandy is a being of pure pionium energy, and he's the only one in the universe who has the ability to both live in the multiple dimensions and to travel through them. And it's because of this that the narrator, or God, is deciding to offer this new role to him. But like I said, Dandy doesn't want to do that. That's not the Dandy thing to do. So he decides to ditch that role and leave. Thus the universe is destroyed, only to be recreated again 14 billion years later, with Dandy returning just like he did in the very first episode, him and QT on the ship, just giving us a little reminder that the Dandy is never going to end. It's only going to continue, whether it be in a parallel universe or not. It was fantastic. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Space Dandy? I loved it. I loved it so much, guys. I cannot get over it. There are so many little things about this episode that are enjoyable. Just the fact that the final ending credits has cameos from most of the major aliens from the series, and the fact that they actually tie in the fact that all of those parallel universes actually do exist, and that it's actually Dandy who is conscious within each of them. However, he doesn't really seem to have any memories of when he's in them, but he can sort of recall them if someone asks him about it, which is really, really strange. And I know it's weird because I always mentioned before that I loved the non-continuity between the shows, but it was so genius how they actually tied them all together in the final episode. Although it does make you think about some of the more weirder episodes, like the episode when he was helping the little girl Adelaide. Are we going to see her return in any format in the future, if that happens? Or even that one episode where Dandy literally died and went to purgatory. Like, I wonder if they were going to try and bring that in, the girl who was like the soul of the planet. There's so many things about this final episode that make me want to watch the entire series again, because there's probably going to be little hints to the fact that might even tie into the season finale. But the other thing that I really liked is the twist of Dr. B. Just didn't see that coming at all. I love the fact that he just shoots Dr. Gel and then immediately he's evil. He has one of the most evil bean-looking expressions that I've ever seen. And I've kind of figured it wouldn't last for him, and only because, you know, he's not exactly that powerful of a character. He doesn't really have any too big of plans aside from just being the big boss. And I love the scene where Dr. Gel actually kills him, because Dr. Gel just turns into this massive monster randomly for like 1 second. But it looks really cool. Another thing that was funny is, like I said, there's a scene where Johnny runs into Commander Perry, and we get to learn that Commander Perry is just a regular old dude who runs the Gogol Empire, and he creates a hologram of that massive galaxy skull thing that has its head on fire, just to intimidate people. And that was slightly disappointing, especially because he seemed like he might be one of the craziest villains and the only real threatening one of the entire series, and he basically just turned into the Wizard of Oz hanging out behind the curtain, manipulating his massive beast. However, the end of the episode is just, it's strange when they reset everything, because they literally do go back to the first episode where Dandy is talking about, it's not all about boobies, it's all about booty and legs, and it goes back to like the original series, but even before Meow was on the ship. And I don't know, it made me reflect on the entire show, and I really don't know how to take that final message though. Maybe continued. I would love to see more. Just, there's so much potential for the characters that was never, like, lived up to yet. And, you know, Scarlet and Honey, I loved that they were, like, main focuses of this episode. In fact, for about 3/4 of the episode, QT, Meow, Scarlet, and Honey are really the ones who are doing the rescue for Dandy in this episode. And I liked that a lot. I was a little disappointed because I'm like, I hope they're not going to do what they did last week where Danny only says like 2 things. No, at the very end of the episode, he actually is released. And like I said, he's taking everything in stride. And they actually show that he really does care about his friends. When he's actually flying towards that super weapon, he sees an image of his friends in the monitor and he can't help but reach for them. And that gives him the strength to turn this massive Statue of Liberty into this mech weapon, which, God, guys, I was watching this with a group of friends last night, and we just all busted out laughing when that happened. Especially when the Statue of Liberty spit him out and he went completely naked and did what I consider to be one of the greatest punches ever. Just so damn satisfying. You can't deny that that's one of the most powerful punches in history. It destroys the universe. It literally destroys the universe. So I just hope that there's going to be more Dandy in the future. If anything, now that the series is done, I pray that Funimation is going to release this on Blu-ray and DVD as soon as possible, because I will eat this series up. The final episode, just like the rest of them, had great production value. The action scenes were incredible and extremely fluid. Everything from a scene where they're flying into the massive Gogol Empire ship, which is totally a reference to the Death Star run from Star Wars, but it's done with a lot of style, especially the fact that they're using that Dandy robot, who is just constantly dodging things, ducking under everything, and it's real fluid and fast, and it just gets the blood pumping. And just the combination of those characters of QT, Meow, and Honey, and Scarlet, they're all so different together, and just seeing their reactions to this massive war that they're caught in between is really exciting. And the battle between the Jaicro Empire and the Gogol Empire is just as impressive. They're literally destroying landscapes and meteorites. They each have their own super weapons and mobile suits, which are all clear references to Mobile Suit Gundam, and I totally dig that. Otherwise, I loved this show, man. I loved it. I have no complaints with it whatsoever. Everything was wrapped up. It was great comedy, great characters, incredible animation, fantastic storytelling, and a season finale that is going to make you reflect on the entire show and love it even more. So I'm going to give the final episode of Space Dandy a 5 out of 5. Perfect episode, perfect way to end the series, and I am so pumped to rewatch this episode again because it was just a joy to watch. Now, I know some of you guys are probably going to be a little disappointed that I did not do a live reaction to this episode. For that, I do apologize. I just didn't have the time to set up my camera. I was hanging out with a few people on Saturday night, and we all had a few drinks, and we wanted to watch Space Dandy, so that's what we did. But you should definitely check out this episode. Watch it in English, watch it in Japanese. Whatever you do, watch Space Dandy. Best anime of 2014. Thank you guys for watching my reviews of all of the episodes of Space Dandy. It was an absolute joy to review this show for you guys. If you haven't seen my other reviews of the series, make sure and check out our page. There will be a playlist that has all of the episodes that I have reviewed. And be vocal about your love of Space Dandy. We want more of the King, Prince, Pompadour of Space in the future. So, there it is, guys. Thank you again for watching. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. And please tell me what you thought about the final episode of Space Dandy. And what did you think about the entire series overall? And do you want it to return in the future? Before you guys go, also make sure to go ahead and subscribe to our channel. You can do so by clicking on the little button right up here. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.